welcome back to my channel. This is Prepping by Faith, and today we are going to be talking about what to do for bugging out during a local or a national threat. And I really wanted to get these videos completed and out there for you guys. I've had several of you asking me about my Prepper Handbook that I put together for SHTF disaster preparedness, and I want to be able to release that to you guys, and I told you I needed to get a few of these videos out first. I've been a little bit distracted, you know, with all the stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine, so I felt like there was a few other videos that I needed to prioritize first, but I'm getting these out there for you so that I can release this. I will probably release the book in a YouTube short so that you guys can find it really easily. All right. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started on this. So this is the Prepper Handbook for SHTF disaster preparedness. I have brought this up on a separate video before, so I know a lot of you are looking forward to this being released. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right to the bugging out section. I'm going to flip to that. First, we're going to get going here. So prepping for bugging out for local and national threats. And what I mean by that is you may have a local threat in your area that is something like a fire where you would be forced to leave your home. I know we don't want to think about bugging out, but we still have to think about these things as a last resort. In that case, you wouldn't have a choice but to leave your home. There are other things that might be, you know, more applicable to your area. It could be something like a hurricane, a tornado, flooding, whatever it is that would drive you from your home and you wouldn't have a choice but to leave or face the possibility of death. So the other thing I wanted to mention is just national threats, and that would be something like where the supply chain has completely broken down and there is just so much chaos in the street depending on where you live, and maybe you're in a more densely populated area and the threat level is just so great that you can't keep that from spilling into your home and you can't save your home and you would have to leave. So the first thing on the list is kind of just what I said, just prioritizing what to bring based on an event. So if it's a local threat, then you're probably going to prioritize less food and water and more of your personal items that are important to you, like your pictures and your keepsakes. If it's a national event, then you're going to want to prioritize less of those personal items and more things like your food, your water, your survival gear. So one of the other things I wanted to mention is just if you're going to be taking more than one vehicle, I know most of us have a couple of vehicles, maybe your spouse is driving one and you're driving the other. You want to keep communication available between you at all times. So if, you know, communication is still working, then you want to bring, you know, your cell phones, your phone charger, maybe a battery bank, so you can still pick up that phone and call. But you also want to have a backup. And what I mean by that is something like a ham radio where you have already designated a channel that you're going to be tuning into, and maybe have a couple, not just one, so that you can communicate with each other in case you're separated or in case you need to get somebody's attention because something's going down and you need to pull over for a minute or something. I mean, with kids and stuff in the car, anything's possible, right? And then you want to make sure you have maps in your cars. You need physical maps, not just, you know, we're so reliant on, you know, satellite technology when it comes to Google Maps and all that sort of thing, and GPS. We want to have physical maps, and maybe not just a map for your state, but maybe also maps for neighboring states in case you're trying to head in that direction. So having those on hand in your vehicle. I would suggest just leaving one in your car at all times. The other thing is maintaining a half a tank of gas. That's something that we've gotten in the habit of doing in our home. I think it's important because you never know when something like this is going to happen and you're going to be forced to, you know, drive away from your home. It sounds terrible to think about, but we do need to consider it. So in our situation, I have on here to head away from the threat with an attempt to go east. And that is because heading east is going to be the least densely populated area. So that's going to be our priority. Now, obviously, if a fire or something is coming from that direction, we're not going to be able to go that way. But that is what we've talked about. And then taking secondary roads instead of crowded interstates. So, you know, for us, it's Highway 26 instead of I-70. That's going to be important for you guys to kind of look at what are your secondary roads and having multiple options, not just one. This is just one I put on here, you know, to kind kind of get you guys thinking. The other thing is you want to keep cash on hand at all times. With these cyber attack threats and other things taking place, there may come a time where you can't just use your credit card because that stuff is down and you can't use it. So you want to have some cash on hand, you know, in case you need to grab some food or you need to get some other supplies, or, you know, somebody didn't have enough clothing and you got to grab something like that. So having cash. So the first one on here is going to be the local threat, and ours, you know, with the emphasis being on a fire. So for us, we would prioritize our fire safe protection, and what I mean by that is just, you know, self-defense tools. And then I have personal papers that are in our filing box. You know, we've talked about a PC external hard drive. That's something that you guys want to consider having to back up, you know, your family videos, your pictures. Obviously, I would want to grab some of those physical printed ones I have as well, and the baby books, camcorders, stuff like that. I have on here also to fill our suitcases with clothing, and that's going to be, you know, dependent upon what the season is, with also throwing in maybe a couple of, you know, layers like light jackets, even if it is warmer weather. Now, if you don't have time to do something like that because there isn't enough time and all you can do is grab your go bag, there should be already a little bit of clothing in that anyhow, then don't prioritize something like this. But for us, if it was something like a fire, we would probably have plenty of warning where we could see which direction that was coming from, and we may have time to do something like this. So moving on, I have on here pet supplies. So this is just stuff, you know, for my dog. I feel like, you know, it's a lot easier to get a hold of people food. It may not be as easy to get a hold of her food, and she has to be on a specific diet because of the way her digestive system is. So we would have to bring at least some of her food with us, and then just some other things on there for her. I've told my girls that they can each bring one small bag of toys with them, and that includes their stuffed animals. So maybe start talking to your kids about that, having them think about which items are important to them. We want to keep them as calm as possible, and, you know, but that's also something that's going to be important to them. You can't just tell them they can't bring anything, right? Because that would be kind of hard to get them out of the house. So anything to kind of keep them motivated and going. And then with an emphasis, if it's a fire, and we know we're not going to be able to bring everything, but focusing on our most expensive prep. So things like your generators, your Berkey, you know, we have a sun oven, that sort of thing. And then obviously grabbing your go bags. And then moving on to a national threat, this one I'm going to talk about is just going to be, you know, chaos situation where you can't save your home. And so in that instance, you would want to prioritize more of your survival gear rather than things like your personal items. So I have on here to grab our fire safe, our self-defense tools, and our external hard drive, and then our go bags, suitcases with clothing, which will stay behind if there's no room. And then emergency food buckets, spices, water, our Berkey, Sawyer minis, everything to filter water. You want as much of that as possible, because if you come across, you know, possibly contaminated water, you can still filter that out and drink it once you run out, because you're not going to be able to bring all of, you know, your cases of water you have stored. They're not going to fit. Your sun oven, generators, tents, sleeping bags, flashlights, obviously batteries to back up, ham radio, emergency radio, utensils, cooking pot of some sort, cups, knives, your fire starter, and I feel like your shovel would be important to mention on there. And then I also have on here just, you know, my pet supplies once again. And then I have gone ahead and broken this down. Oh, okay, so there's one more thing over here. And then the girls, one bag of their toys. We talked about that. Hygiene products that I would want to bring with us would be, you know, some baby wipes, feminine products, deodorant. Looks like I put baby wipes on there twice on accident. Scrubs, toothpaste, toothbrush, you know, important pharmaceuticals, you know, that are important, medications that you're taking that you have to have on you. And then, you know, an IFAC kit, your vest, and maybe some toilet paper, because you might want that as well. And then I have created lists for each of my family members. Now, the first thing that I've told everyone in my household, including my girls, is that you want to put on your shoes first before you start doing any task, right? So we're going to focus on covering our feet before we start moving around. So for my youngest, she's 7, it's just to grab her go bag, put together her second bag of toys, including her stuffed animals. And then if she has time, to go ahead and prep a suitcase. If not, that will get left behind. And then I have on here for my oldest, same thing, put on shoes, grab her go bag, put her second bag together, suitcase. And then I also have on her for her to help put Darla's bag together. And then they know to move everything by the front door, because that's going to be kind of where we're going to look for everything as we're gathering everything to head out. And then this is just for my husband and I. We want to collapse the seats in his car, load our bulky items first, right? Get those in there. And then we've talked about, you know, our Bible as being an important tool that we want to have on hand. And then the kids and the dog would stay in my car with me. That's something that we've discussed. So you guys want to have a plan like that too. Where are the kids going? Where is the dog going? That way you can start thinking about how much room and how much space you're going to have left to even fit any of these preps, right? And then I'm just going to ensure that we have all these things that we just talked about. And we're also going to have a plan if we're separated, you know, things like how do we signal each other if for some reason we can't even get through on the ham radios? Are we going to flash our lights several times? Think about those sort of things, okay? So these are just some things to think about for bugging out. I want to get you guys thinking about these. I will make this available for you, I promise, as soon as I finish these other videos. And if you guys have learned something from this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And remember to pray, prep, and put God first. God bless.